What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simply Walk the Talk. I am your host, Joshua J. Holland, obviously. And today is going to be one of those fun episodes. We're going to call this a solo episode or a solo cast, in which I'm going to just update you on what's happening in my life, why I've been traveling from like one place to the next, and some of the hacks, tips, and tricks that I implore while I'm on the road. So stay tuned. This is going to be a good one.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
All right, so here we are. I say we, that would be myself and anybody watching or listening, and we got the homeboy Gordon Cummings. So yeah, like I'm on tour right now. I'm currently in Milano, and I love being on the road. If you hadn't known this by now, I love being able to kind of do my work, something I'm very passionate and also to be able to be paid and to be treated as if like my client, Roger Waters, he really respects my work. And so it allows me to stay hungry and to want to continue to research and do all these things. And so this tour is it's known as the first farewell tour for Roger Waters. He's currently 79 years old. He will be 80 soon. And a lot of people are like, man, how is this guy able to embark on a world tour? Because it's a grueling process for most any person, right? But at his age, a lot of people are saying that he's gotten better since the last tour, which was called Us and Them. And I did that whole tour with him, it spanned over 21 months. And this one so far, we've done North America, then we had a long break, and now we're doing Europe and UK. So Gordon is pulling up some of the images from his Instagram and social media, and it's really cool because at 79, you can see he's pretty fit, and I think it's really cool because I would like to say that I have a bit of I guess the reason why he's doing this tour. A lot of people will say that I have a direct impact, but you know, I definitely have some impact on him doing this tour and being able to kind of sustain the tour. And my work is called health optimization or biohacking. But basically what I'm doing is taking someone like him and looking after his fitness and looking after his nutrition, making sure he's getting proper blood work done, making sure that he's resting, which is also very, very important. You know, the North American tour is a lot different than this Europe tour because the shows are they were spread out more in the US, but they're a little bit more closer together here in Europe. So there's not a lot of time embedded for recovery. So I have to figure out ways to make that happen. So for instance, people ask me, Joshua, what is it you do exactly, right? Because from the outside looking in, it might seem that this is just a cakewalk. Like it's just, I show up, I do a training session, or I do some stretching and massage or warm him up before the show. But it's a lot more than that. What I'm doing is I'm trying to look at the whole schedule as a whole. And then I try to find moments in which he can really recover. And I try to make sure that I don't tax his body too much because he's already stressed with late nights, and you know, there's always going to be alcohol involved, and you know, he's very political. If you don't know that already, you know, he's very political, so there's a lot of stress there. and then he's got his wife on tour, and then he's got family, and he's got friends, and everyone is tugging for more. And so my job is to basically fit in where I can, but not be too overwhelming for him. And this is just part of like knowing where you fit in, knowing your role, and also making sure that there's a trust that's built in that allows me to be able to say, hey, we're going to do this today, and we're going to do something else next week. And for him to say, you're the boss, you got it.
I'm curious, Josh, how did you build that trust with Roger? Because I'm sure there's a lot of trainers who probably want to be training him. What sort of made you win out versus other trainers?
Well, to be totally honest with you, the wall was kind of broken down, pun intended, right? So, but this this wall that goes up for, let's say, a fan versus a friend. I always kind of say this, or a fan versus a trusted person within his life. That wall was kind of broken, or it came down once he knew that I trained people like Madonna in the past, right? And so when I first met him, that was kind of part of my approach, and it wasn't name dropping necessarily, but it was to show him or let him understand that I work with people at his level or even higher, because she's got a lot more going on than he does, because compared to her, his life is very simple. She's got a lot that has to happen. I mean, she's got 2 gyms, moving around when she's on tour in Europe. One gym is being built while the other one is traveling to the next destination. Whereas Roger, if I say we're working out in his room, we're working out in his room, or he's perfectly fine being in a gym, hotel gym. Whereas Madonna can't quite do that because people are going to be coming up to her and bothering her during her workouts and stuff. So I think the first thing was that I had a reputation of working with people at a very high level. And then also, I'll never forget the first time that we did our session together. It was because his former trainer, Mike Zeminski, shout out to Mike Zeminski. Mike used to work for me when my company managed the Core Club, which is where Roger is a member of. And when my company took over that gym, the fitness center, he became grandfathered in and was immediately our top trainer, in terms of like amount of clients, right? And so obviously we took care of him, put him on salary, did all these things. But when it was time for him to get married and he wanted to have a kid and things like that, or wanted to have kids, he wanted to have more of like a job. Hear that?
Sorry, it's all right. It's just a plane going over.
Oh, okay, got it. I was like, is that in my background? Okay. So he wanted to establish like a more secure career,
right?
Something where he could have like, full insurance and, and a salary and blah, 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 something beyond what we could give him. Because with being a trainer, you basically only get paid when you train a client one-on-one, right? Or do group classes. And so there was a ceiling that he had hit. Anyway, long story short, I actually helped Mike to get a job with Techno Gym, which I'm in the country of Techno Gym because they are Italian brand. And I was one of their global ambassadors at the time. And they were always wanting me to do more work with them, but I couldn't really because I was running my company and I had my clients and things like that. And anyway, I thought it was a perfect situation to get Mike involved with Techno Gym, and so he did. And he ended up getting the gig. And once he got the gig, that meant like his 30 or 40 clients that he took care of, one of which was Roger Waters. We quickly as a company had to figure out how to dole out those different clients amongst our other trainers. We had about 20 trainers that were a part of my company then. And the only one that Roger was even willing to entertain working with was me. So that was a pretty easy carryover. And I remember the very first day that we trained, I had seen some of his sessions and I watched what he was doing. And, I remember asking him, because the way Mike set it up, Roger would come up, put his shoes on, he would go to the elliptical and he would start his own warm up. And Mike would come in, chat with him. But, Roger is very disciplined. and he just was kind of doing the elliptical. And so he did that the first day that I came there. And I just asked him a very simple question, because I like people. He's a thinker, right? He's very intelligent, very witty. And I just asked him a question that I think surprised the hell out of him. And that question was, hey, I'm curious why you came to the elliptical on our first day of training. Do you actually like doing the elliptical? And he said, well, I can't, I'm surprised you asked me that. He's like, I actually hate doing the elliptical. I actually hate it. And I said, so then why do you do it? He was like, well, Mike told me to do it, and he never told me to stop doing it. So I do it. And I said, okay, fair enough. That told me a number of things.
Right.
It told me that he's very disciplined, and that if I tell him to do something, he's most likely going to do it unless it hurts him. And it told me to let him know when we're done with doing something, when we can move on. Otherwise, he's going to keep doing it. And so from that day, we had a great session. And from that day, he just kind of entrusted in me, and I'm kind of like a son to him, and it's really cool. I treat him like an uncle. So yeah, that's my relationship with Roger Waters. Great guy. He gets a lot of flack online with, his politics and things like that. Even in his show, at the beginning of the show, it's basically like, if he says to the audience in a voiceover, if you're one of those, I love Pink Floyd, but I can't stand Roger's politics people, you might do well to fuck off to the bar right now. Like, yeah, he means really. I mean, it's like
he's pretty
direct. Yeah. It's also kind of funny because you get a chance to see the crowd loves that sentiment, because he just says what he wants, what he's feeling, and it's true.
Well, and he's kind of earned it. I mean, he's at a point in his career where I think a lot of people are like, look, man, like, you either like him or you don't. You know who he is at this point, and he's kind of earned that ability to say, look, sort of very base mentality, 0 fucks. Like, look, that's how I feel, and I think I respect him for that. Whether you agree or not, he's definitely very honest, and how he feels.
Absolutely, yeah. And to be honest, like, I've been working with him since 2014, 2015, I think it was. Let's just say 2015, and it's like having a history lesson every day. Every day that I'm with him, it's like a history lesson. And I mean, I've just learned so much from him, and I've also learned like how to have a stance and how to have a platform and how to actually use that platform, because there's a lot of people out there that virtue signal and they don't do crap, man, for like what's really important, but he certainly does. So like you said, whether you believe you support him or you believe in what he says, it's like you can't help but understand that this guy really believes it. And if you really get a chance to kind of understand his story, then it's easy to understand why he thinks the way he thinks. And so anyway, my hope is one day getting him on the show. Maybe we will, but yeah. Sure. Anyway,
sounds like an awesome mentor.
Yeah, man, that's the right word. I would say he's definitely a mentor for sure. So, and I think I am a mentor to him in many ways as well, especially when it comes to health and wellness and fitness. So, so that's that. Yeah.
What's up next?
Next, we've got the 15x5 program. So, okay, yeah. If you have been following my social media, you probably noticed, like, especially ever since I started working with Gordon, I've been just doling out the content, and part of that was because I had always said, if I could have someone really understand me and what I'm trying to achieve with this podcast and content and things like that, it would allow me to be more creative and allow me to spend more time putting out content on my personal brand. And that's what I've been doing. So thanks to you, Gordon, man, we've been doing well.
Definitely.
I've noticed like a brand consistency with the podcast, and our numbers are growing and things are happening. So with this 15x5 program, it allowed me to actually have the time and the creative outlet to be able to write a second book. So awesome. You hear it here first. I literally wrote this book while being on tour, and it should be finished in the next couple of weeks, but it's called the 15x5 program, or 15x5 workout program. And it's going to detail everything you would ever want to know about this program, why I designed it, how it was developed, what you may get from it. And it's going to have everything in there. So it's going to be an ebook that I want to sort of live as a resource for those who are curious about ways to work out. And then my hope is that it encourages people to read the other book, The Awareness Shift. But what was really interesting to me, Gordon, I will say this. I'm sure you can imagine, I get loads of people asking me, hey man, you're this amazing trainer and health coach. Like, can you give me a program? Like, I need a program. You know how many times I've given people programs and they just don't do it? It's insane. It's insane. And here I am now, we just rolled out the 15x5 workout program on social media. I started out week by week, right? So we are in the tail end of week 3. Next week is going to start week 4, the final week. And I have a handful of people that are doing it. Put it out for free, right? Mm-hmm. I even thought about putting the ebook out for free, but I'm just realizing that people they almost like need to be charged a lot of money for them to even take something serious. So
there's a psychology behind that. My buddy actually, he's doing a similar circuit thing, and he said that exact same thing. He's like, I paid for it so that I would force myself or hold myself to be more accountable. So there is definitely a psychological component to that, to where people, they feel like they're wasting something if they're not utilizing it when they pay for it versus if it's free.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is long ago, because I've been doing this program thing for a long time, right? Like, it's hard to be a trainer and not understand the importance of programming. Programming is a big deal, but there's been points in my career when I move away from the idea of programming or maybe I don't move away from it, but maybe I adapt it into where it's a loose programming. But because I noticed that you can program till the cows come home, which is an expression, those of you that don't know that expression, but you can program all you want, but you never know what somebody's dealing with when they come in. Maybe they rolled their ankle, maybe they are just completely exhausted because they had a big night partying or whatever. You can't always rely on your programming unless it's loose. And so I used to do this thing where I wanted to take a group of 25 people because I wanted to do a case study around the effectiveness of this program that I built, right? And I thought it was a great program. And it was a great program, right? But when I first reached out on social media, all these people signed up. And they're like, okay, so the first week I wanted to say to people, okay, this is what the program's gonna look out. And I said it was free. I said, but there is a caveat to it. Well, everyone wanted to know what's the caveat, okay? So the caveat was each person was to put up sort of like in escrow, put up a certain amount of money in escrow. And then each week that they show up and each class they actually show up to, then a certain amount of that money comes back such that by the end of the program, you would get 100% of your money back. Right?
Interesting, yeah.
And I had half the people that signed up, half of them were like, oh, you duped us, you're duping us, this is a scam, this and that. And I'm like, what? Right? Mind you, for those, and here's the kicker, for those that did say okay, I actually told them, because I actually did feel a little bit bad, I told them, listen, I wanted to weed out the people who were just saying that they wanted to do something. I wanted to trim the fat, so to speak, by saying that I'm not going to actually take any money from you, but I wanted to make sure that I have the right team of people. It ended up being 25 people, which was perfect. It's exactly what I was looking for. And the program was really good, right? But because they didn't have to pay for anything, sometimes they come to class, sometimes they didn't. So we ended up with 10 people, I think, that went from start to finish all the way through, got some really good results. And, some of them are still friends to this day and they still follow me what I'm doing. But I learned a lot from that. And, here we are now. I'm putting out a book. I thought I was going to put, a free ebook out there, but now I'm going to charge for the ebook because I had to spend a lot of time and money going over it. And people probably aren't going to read it if they don't pay for it. So, and the same with this program. So, yeah.
I feel you, man. It's very psychological, a lot of the world we live in today, and I think it is very much depending on the context, but I do think it's smart to have some sort of way to, as you talked about with the awareness shift, we talked with blanking on the gentleman's name from LifeForce. These certain programs, they say, this is not for everyone. This is for someone who is willing to commit to having the CGM on their arm, to really taking the time and effort to be disciplined about these things. And ultimately, that's kind of what we're coming down to. And that's its thing in and of itself, is discipline. Like, certain people have just naturally stronger self-discipline than others, but it's something that can be, myself, I think you can develop stronger discipline, but, and we can move to the next things, but that is something that I'm curious, as we move forward. What are your thoughts on discipline? Like, can you make somebody really strongly disciplined? Is it just, natural? I'm just curious, just real quick on that.
Well, listen, the only thing I can even say about that, because I feel like I'm a very naturally disciplined person. So I think there are people out there that are naturally disciplined and others that aren't. But like, there's some things that all of us are disciplined on for the most part. And it's things like eating food,
survival,
drinking water, brushing your teeth, cleaning your clothes, taking a shower.
Some more than
others.
Right.
Again, some more than others, right? But if you take those basic concepts, these are the things that show us that we do have some discipline for the things that we need to be disciplined with, right? And some people, it requires hitting rock bottom. Right. Some people, it requires getting, made fun of because your clothes stink or your body stinks, right?
Right.
Or it doesn't. But I would simply say, just get started and then start small. This is the reason why I designed the 15x5 program to be 12 minutes every other day, 3 days a week is the minimum, right? But even if that's too much for you, then admit that that's too much for you, and then we can find ways, right? That's part of what I do as a health coach, is I want to try to find ways to find time. Do you spend too much time cooking food and then washing dishes such that you don't have any more bandwidth to want to do anything? Well, then get the book, The Awareness Shift. At the back, I have some very easy recipes on how to best save time, right? I could also tell you that, you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to spend money on a gym. This program can be done at home. So there's ways to figure it out, but I think people just want to have an excuse,
right?
So that then they can say, well, but I can't.
Right.
So like, just be honest with yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, but that's a really good question, man.
No, I think, and we'll move forward to the ketones, some of the other cooler things, but I think that for me personally, that was a major shift for me, because I played sports most of my life, but I didn't create an actual more strength and conditioning routine till later in life. But it was because, book title drop here, I shifted my awareness. It really is about my perspective on these things, and also not making it seem like some overwhelming task, right? If you start small, as you're saying, then you get up to a point where you're doing some stuff in the beginning might have seemed overwhelming. So it is all relative to where you're at, and that inner voice, that inner thought, if you can shift that from just saying, hey man, like, whether I'm doing this because I want to attract somebody I'm into, or for personal health, whatever the rationale, ultimately, whatever you use to motivate you, it can be unique to each individual person. All you care about, and people in this field really care about, is making sure that you're taking small steps, in the right direction. So, for myself and everyone out there, it doesn't have to be a lot. It's just, it really is, as the classic thing you hear, it's all about consistency. If you can just do little each week, it will get more. You'll get confidence. You'll feel better. You'll see things, and then you'll say, I got this. I can handle this. I can do this next thing. But it really is that first stage is always the hardest, I think, for most people. But we can move forward for sure.
Yeah. So, the next thing I wanted to talk about is ketones, because ketones have been a big part of this tour for Roger himself and for me. And I move around with like refrigerated bags and things like that, and I take ketones a lot. In fact, I'm
curious about what we're seeing in this video too. Sorry, but all the shaking and stuff, for the people, I recommend seeing this too as we're getting the ketone stuff. Explain a little bit of this most recent workout, because some of this was interesting.
Yeah, so that's at the hotel here in Milan, and at the Palazzo Parigi. and a beautiful hotel. They have all Techno Gym equipment, of course, because Techno Gym is an Italian manufacturer. And I'm in my electrical muscle stimulation bodysuit, the System Fit bodysuit. And so what's happening is my muscles are being stimulated while I'm working out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of paired that with the music in the background, which is, you know, we probably shouldn't play it because then it won't get monetized on YouTube. But the thing is like, it's what is his name? Dr. Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker, and it's about working hard and the fact that, like, you know, like if you really want results, you have to have this mentality. I feel that you should have this mentality of like, no one is gonna outwork me. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be the best athlete or the most talented or anything like that, but you can be the hardest worker.
Right.
And I also sort of juxtaposition. I have, like, it's sort of work hard and work smartly, right? Which is kind of what the description on that post is. I try to use the electrical muscle stimulation suit as a way to work smart and hard, right? So
what
I
is,
can
explain
work
a little bit of the
butt
suit.
off.
What exactly is it doing? I'm curious. It's obviously stimulating the muscles, but is it getting more results by doing that?
It absolutely is, yeah. So basically, I can choose a strength program, I can choose a cardio program, endurance, I can choose relaxation, you know, and basically all the major muscle groups. So the biceps, the triceps, the chest, the abs, the obliques, the low back, the middle back, the upper back, the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes. All of that can be activated, right? And that can be activated based on whatever setting I have it set on. Okay. And so in that video, I think I have it on fat burn mode. And fat burn mode is basically, I think it's set at the frequency is at 65 hertz. And I have it on a constant frequency. So that's what I'm showing. Like my phone, you know, when you start on the phone, I basically have it Bluetooth set to the device that's on my hip, okay? And then those electrodes are activating my muscles for me while I work out. So if
it's
you
really
have
customizable,
a problem,
it looks like. So it's every specific part of the body. You're choosing how much stimulation you want.
Yeah, because some can handle more than the others. Like, for instance, the quads and hamstrings can handle more than the biceps and the chest. So you can titrate it up and down based on what you're feeling in that moment. And obviously, like, the more you sweat, the more activation you feel. And then, I go to my workout, and I don't have to be in the gym as long. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. As long as I put on the suit, I know I'm going to do something, and I'm not going to waste my time. And even if I just walk, I can make that walk feel like I just ran a marathon, you know, based on the settings, right? I can pump that thing so hard that it's like I'm breathing really hard. Or I can simulate the fourth quarter of a high intense basketball game, you know, by just shooting hoops, right? So, and I've done that before in the suit. You know, I have it underneath my clothes, and I go and play basketball, and people are like, "What is that?" It's like, you know, whatever. And then I put it in relaxation mode at the end of it. Yeah, exactly.
So I imagine for elite athletes too, if they want to be able to make that fourth quarter shot or that, you know, last minute play, you know, this is similar to, like, you know, Joe Rogan talks about this with bow hunting. You know, a lot of times when you're either hunting or an athlete, you're at a point where your heart rate is flying, you're trying to concentrate with a lot going on, but that's also the moment when you need to make the big shot, you know, whether it's in the wildlife or in a game. And so the best guys will put themselves in those states and then learn how to, you know, hit that bullseye or make that shot 9 out of 10 times. And so this would make a lot of sense for people training whatever level 2 in athletics or, you know, various things.
Yeah. One of the big reasons why we created this entire system was because as a basketball player myself, I saw many times, and to this day I still see it, when athletes are injured, or, you know, or they come off of an injury and they're about to get back into the swing of things, instead of allowing that athlete to continue doing what they do, as in playing their sport, they end up being told to go get on the bike to get their cardio in. Well, what good does it do to put somebody on a bike, a station on the sidelines, to improve their cardio in a sport that demands way more, right?
Right.
The best way to improve your cardio in that sport is to do that sport. So my goal with this system was to put athletes in the suit, allow them to do everything they would do normally, right? But with way less wear and tear on their body.
Right. I feel you. That makes total
Right.
sense.
So it's like, so for me, I just kind of feel like, you know, not only does it allow you to simulate the end of a game or you know, very intense positions, but you can also flip the switch and go into recovery mode while you're sitting on the bench, right? You know, you put the suit on, you can be in recovery mode, and you know, like, I remember playing basketball, pick up basketball. If you lose, you have to sit down. Well, sometimes you have to sit down way too long and you're too get in and play again, or you run the risk of hurting yourself. So the day when I had the suit on, if we lost the game, which doesn't happen very often, if I was to lose a game, I sit on the sideline and I put it in recovery mode to keep my circulation going, to keep my muscles pumped. And then I switch it to cardio mode to go and play again. So anyway, we'll do another episode all about that, you know, but I'm glad you asked the question because it was one of my first, like, you know, decent on TikTok that actually went pretty, it's doing well in the views right now on TikTok. I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it up.
Definitely, man. We're having a little bit of video latency. That's why I just kept it on this, just for the audience. I think you're coming back, but if we want to switch to the ketone stuff, we can. I think now the visual's coming back. We're good. Okay. But now I think we're good to go, though. But yeah, man, I mean, that makes total sense to me, honestly, and I think that's the future in so many ways with these various products of we're gonna get to a point, we're already there, where there's so many different products, but it's gonna be about how to utilize them best. You know, it's gonna come down, and so it's gonna come down to people like yourself and people who have really put these things in practice in the field, who can say, hey, this is the best practical use of this. Because I think a lot of people can get a little bit overwhelmed thinking, there's so many things out there. What exactly is best for me? Do I even need this? Is this just being excessive? So I think that's really critical for people to understand exactly like what I'm about, what this can be used for, and sort of moving into that next, ketones. I know you've said you've worked a lot with Roger utilizing these. What's sort of why do you like ketones so much? And we've had on the guys from Kenetik too.
Yeah, we had the guys from Kenetik on, and I've been a ketones for a long time. Even posted the book about ketones, and I see there's probably still this video issue. So yeah, we could various things playing. I'll kind of move through this quickly, but right now you're showing the KetoneIQ by HVM, and ketones is something that like our body makes when we are in a state of like fast state or a state of very low carbohydrate, and when you can take exogenous ketones, it kind of just enhances everything, right? And you can use it for energy, use it for mental clarity, cognition. And what I do is on the last tour in North America, on the This Is Not a Drill North America tour, I was using it with Roger just for the show. Well, when we had the guys from Kenetik on the show, we talked about being able to use it daily and the benefits of doing such. So now I have Roger doing it every single day, and we do it on the show days as well. So now I think like we're both seeing just how powerful this thing is, right? Because not only does it give you energy like that, but it helps your body to process sugars. It helps you with your, with your metabolism. It helps with, again, with cognition. And talk about cognition, needing to have cognition while you're on a stage. You're 80 years old, basically. Sometimes you might fit lyrics here and there, and it happens. So I want to make sure that he feels his best when he's on stage. And for those of you that are curious, go back and check out the episode in which we talked to guys from Kenetik. I don't need to go too deep on ketones, but I like to use KetoneIQ by HVMN. I like Ketone Aid. And Ketone Aid, actually, they make some alcohol blends with alcohol. And remember about that, where ketones, if done properly, can actually mitigate the effects of alcohol, right? So what I like about what Aid is doing is they actually have some drinks like a ginger mule and a pina colada drink, and it's actually pretty good. And I think for those that are out there that feel like they need to have an alcohol beverage, ketones kind of taste like alcohol in the first place. It kind of tastes like a vodka anyway. So let that be your drink. How about sipping on that on rocks instead of having to have something that's going to be toxic for you? Just something to consider. Okay,
Yeah.
price range is better as well. You know, to buy a beer versus buying a ketone drink is about the same, but one is going to give you extreme benefit, the other may not. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. But it seems like this is a pretty exciting new field where there's a lot of potential for a lot of different outlets.
Absolutely. Yes, let's move on now because I want to make sure that we don't get too many of these problems with the Wi-Fi here. So we're gonna move on to the Kineon Move Plus. So when I was in London before we actually started the tour, we were prepping for the tour. I was in London and the outskirts of London, and Tom came down. So I didn't get a chance to have Tom on the show. We had Forrest on the show, but Tom is his business partner, and he came down from up north to visit me and brought me some of the new Move Plus devices. So they have new straps now. They've got
I've had chronic knee.
Sort of they have better timers, like the timing system on the device itself is much better. It's like easier because in the past you had to push the button or you hold the button down, it comes on and it gives you this medical laser red light therapy for 5 minutes. And then if you wanted to do it more, or you just push it again and you keep doing that until the battery runs out. Now the device has a timer on the back of it, so you can do 15 minutes at once. The strap system is such that you can interchange the different modules, and you can make them all vertical or all horizontal. You can actually put them closer together now, so that you can do things for the wrist, because before it was all kind of spread out and it was mostly focused for the knees.
Right.
But it's really cool. So I definitely think it's worth mentioning.
I've only done a little bit of red light therapy. My friend, she had one of those, more just generic larger lights I used, but I mean I felt it slightly, but it wasn't like super felt, but I did feel like there was something to it. And immediately when I saw the site and what they're talking about, it seems like a big difference with what they're doing and how they're approaching it is this is very specifically targeted, sniper-like accuracy, as they say. And this is also both sides of the body at a time, right? So can you just speak to a little bit what people sort of think of generally when they think of red light therapy? It's starting to become more popular now in general, but why is this really, more effective than sort of a standard, like you go standard in a red light shower or one of those just standard, like red light beds or something?
Yeah, so the one of the main benefits is that this has red light therapy and lasers, right? So medical lasers, which is very powerful and potent. But the other thing is that all the research that's out there, most of the research that is out there is based on like a certain distance from the skin or from the body, right? And so when you have devices that are panels or these beds and things like that, like you're not ever really guaranteeing how close, or you don't know how close you are. Maybe you're too close, maybe you're too far away. But with something like this Move Plus device, it's exactly how close it is because it's on your skin. Right. It does not burn you. It does get warm, but it doesn't burn you. So that's the accuracy component, right? And also the other piece of the accuracy is that you put it exactly where the pain is, right? And so that is super cool. And the fact that it's a laser just takes it to a different level. It just makes it more effective than just a certain nanometer or a certain wavelength. You get multiple wavelengths. So it's really cool. It's something you can use every day. And there's a lot of information on that on their website, but also if you want to go back to the podcast I did with Forrest, feel free to check that out. We went deep in it.
Very cool. Yeah. And I definitely recommend people checking out some of their YouTube, just these videos explaining the science, because some of the things I didn't realize, it stimulates mitochondria. Some of these benefits I had no idea, but it's definitely very cool stuff. Vivo Barefoot, we want to move on to footwear versus shoes.
Yeah. So we recently had Mr. Asher Clark on the show, And that was really fun because I had interviewed Galahad, his cousin, during the middle of the pandemic, and I hadn't had a chance to interview Asher, but I've known him as long as I've known Galahad, and it was really cool to kind of connect with him. And we talked about, like you just mentioned, the difference between shoes and footwear, and we just talked about a whole host of things. And I certainly think it's worth going and checking out that podcast, and also even checking out the episode with Galahad. I don't recall the number, but that one was an audio only, but it's still very, very deep in the knowledge. So I would say check that out. And I certainly think people should just take their foot health more seriously. I see so many people worried about, like, just the look, the aesthetics, the fashion, but that's like only caring about the aesthetic of your body, but not caring about what's happening inside. It's very similar to me, So if you want to truly have like holistic overall health and wellness and optimize your performance, then the feet are your foundation, and it's something worth looking into and taking care of. So I think that's definitely it on Vivo Barefoot. But a lot of people ask me why I wear the shoes I wear, why I wear the socks I wear. If you understand it the way I understand it, then you would do the same thing and probably would never go back. And that's not to say that I don't ever wear fancy shoes for different outings, but it's like me having a gluten intolerance and occasionally eating something with gluten in it because it's maybe, a certain occasion. But I'm not going to do that every weekend. I'm not going to do that every week. I'm not going to do that even every year. So it's just, the same goes with footwear. The same goes with fitness and everything else.
And I highly recommend everyone checking out their website. They've done a lot of great work to create an assessment tool for your feet, depending on what kind of things you're looking for, whether it's training, running, walks, if it's for injury, combating that. So they've done a really great job, not only, perfecting the type of barefoot style footwear, but also, everyone is unique. And we talk about it in the podcast, we'll move forward, but it is one of those things you don't just really want to jump full head first into, feet first into, so to speak, because it is something you do want to slightly kind of adjust to versus if you've worn shoes your whole life. That's something that, Asher pointed out, I think was an astute point, that you do want to kind of do it in a healthy way, transition, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And so lastly, I know you wanted to talk about this high-tech frequency. Explain this. What's going on in EMF?
So this is the Chi Blanco. Chi Blanco. So I don't know if it's showing up or not, but I did turn off my not my Wi-Fi, but my what do you call it? The browser, so that maybe this would get a little bit better in terms of the video. But
I see you now.
I'm holding up my Chi 1 2 Pro, which is this necklace, and then I've got the bracelet, the Chi bracelet. Okay, the two together, for me, provides this sort of full circle. It almost like it completes the circuit for me. So the bracelet there is one of their newest ones, and what I like about it is that it's unlike anything I've ever had on my wrist. It's not a watch, it's not a it's not a regular bracelet, and it has this opening here that you can open it up, right, and then you can slide it off like this, and then you can take it off and sort of bend it back in. I like it because it usually gets people to ask me questions. Hey, what is that on your wrist? And I go, boom, gotcha. Because anytime there's a question, there's an opportunity to educate. And so this here has the same sort of grid chip technology that the Chi 1 2 Pro necklace has. And people ask me, well, okay, why do you need to have both? Well, I have way more than just these two things. I have a lot of things, but these are the ones I like to wear on me because it's like very functional, in that it can help the cells to become more resilient to EMFs. And let's face it, I'm around EMFs a lot. I have microphones, podcast equipment. I've got, I'm traveling on planes. I'm around, a concert, if you can imagine all the sound equipment and all the things that are happening in a concert, I'm around EMFs a lot. And so these devices are not designed to block the EMFs, but allows my body and my cells to become more resilient to the EMFs. And so, this can allow the cells to to focus on a more coherent frequency, as opposed to all the erratic craziness that's going on outside of me, right? Or around me in my environment. And also there's research to show that this technology can help with hydration. So, obviously when you're flying a lot, you want to make sure you drink a lot of water, but just drinking water doesn't mean that your cells are absorbing it. But when you have something that allows your cells to be more coherent, then you can take in more water, and it also helps to kind of organize or structure that water a little bit better. So the water that comes in is more hydrating, and it not only just the water, but the nutrients that I take. I spend a lot of money on supplements and on good quality food. So I want to make sure that my body is absorbing it well enough, and these two things help with that. And I have a number of other things with me as well, but these specifically, I say kind of completes the circuit. So the Chi bracelet with the Chi 1-2 Pro necklace, it's like it's my staple, and I keep it on me all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people should definitely I recommend them checking out. I'm showing the audience watching their website. They have done a lot of serious science and research behind this, because I know some people might dismiss this a little. They hear Chi, or they think, oh, is this sort of new agey? Is this actually real science? But this is German serious engineering and design. You can go look at the science yourself, but they have clearly shown that they have taken this, very seriously when it comes to showing the results of what's doing to cells, with it being protected versus unprotected. These are random double-blind studies of what it looks like. So, this is serious science behind this stuff, and I think these things are becoming more mainstream, when before people didn't really understand how they work. But that makes a lot of sense, at least from a conceptual standpoint. And then lastly, we had on LifeForce, but these are very much just a lot of great. You want to touch on, these are a lot of great products. We spoke with the founders, and they went into much more detail. You guys can check out the podcast, but you want to quickly touch on that. They have a lot of great nutraceuticals and hormones and peptides.
Yeah. There's two recent ones that I've got, or one that I'll touch on that's not so recent. I've had since the beginning, but that's Peak Rest. Peak Rest is really cool because I thought at first, I'm like, I'm not really sure if I need it because I sleep fine. But, I looked at the ingredients, and, the stuff that it had in it is amazing. It's got the creatine in it, which I think is great. L-theanine, melatonin, a bunch of different things that is very amazing. But the reason why I wanted to touch on this today is because this little apparatus, this little funnel, has been a game changer for taking peak rest. Sometimes I don't even
I got it for the funnel.
Well,
son.
It's like, yeah, like I wanted to use this way more than I actually have used it until I got this funnel, because man, I was having to try to like pour it into a bottle like this.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I can see already.
Because I don't want to. Right. So I got this small little funnel. I use the Peak Rest inside of it, shake it up, drink it before I go to bed. Well, like 30 minutes to an hour before I go to bed. And it's a game changer when it comes to sleep. So definitely check out Peak Rest. It's really good. The flavor is not too bad. I just take it one gulp and I'm done. That's life.
Why do you like that better than sort of the classic sort of sleep aids dealing with, I'm blanking on the term, the herb a lot of people use that helps them sleep? What was this like? Does it feel like it's a more restful sleep, deeper sleep, or?
Well, so I tend to sleep well anyway, right? Which was one of the reasons why I really didn't think I needed it. But what it allows me to do is it allows me to not dip in and out of the different. So for instance, I used to, on my Garmin and on my Oura Ring, I would be asleep, but I would have moments where it shows that I'm awake, even though I wasn't awake. That means I was coming too far out of the next sleep cycle. And with this, it's almost like I'm still going in and out of different sleep cycles, but it never shows that I'm awake. which is pretty cool. Or if anything, it'll show that I was awake once. And that to me, it's night and day. It's like, that's a true metric that I can believe in and I can support and I can stand behind. And it doesn't really matter anything else, really. I mean, it's like, why not? LifeForce has been so good for me, with all the different supplements that I have on my program. And I retest every 3 months or so. So why not, right? It's certainly not hurting me. And, it's just another way to stay hydrated at night.
Well, and I think it's nice because you are really so diligent about how you use this, as far as just if somebody wants to know how well this works, you have a lot of data and analytics to back it up while you're using it, so that you can say, hey, I have the actual receipts. This is what my data showed during these periods. So when you do products, you're, it's just as an outsider, you're a really good guinea pig, because you are really as far as a subject, you're really good about doing it properly. You do it in a controlled way, and then you measure it really well. So I tend to, if something really works, it seems like you can definitely vet it pretty well. It's kind of putting it simply.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I want more people to do that. I want people to do that for themselves also. And to be fair, I go into it with a very open mind. So I think that also has a lot to do with it as well. Yeah. So, and the only other update with LifeForce, just so people know, is I recently got put on the methylation, their methylation product. It's really, really good. It helps my body to deal with blood sugar. So it helps to, when I am taking in sugar, because I think I may have talked about this twice when we did the LifeForce episodes. I talked about how close I was to being pre-diabetic, and it was something worth looking at. They told me, Josh, you should look into this. What methylation is designed to do is to kind of help my body deal with the sugars. And so I've been using this. I'm almost finished with the first bottle. I got to re-up. I got to get my manager to send me some of the other supplements over to Europe now that I'm here. But I'll be updating everyone on how well that's working, or lack thereof. But so far, so good. It's amazing. And then lastly, peptides. Yeah. I won't say too much about peptides, but let's just say this. Stay tuned, because I will be going over some of the peptides I'm about to be taking. I did take one called BPC 157 for my post-surgery, whenever I had a hernia repair surgery in New York. And it was one of those things that I'm pretty sure people were shocked as to how quickly I recovered from that, because I think within 2 weeks I was doing my thing. I was moving regular. And one of the companies that I'm going to start doing, I actually have a conversation with them tonight, is called Limitless Life Nootropics, I think it is. Limitless Life Nootropics. So my goal is to have them come onto the show so we can talk about the different ones. But some of the ones I'm going to be testing out soon is BPC 157 with TB 500. Okay, a lot of highly technical terms, right? But just robots. Simply put, yeah, it does, right?
Star Wars,
R2D2 in your body. But basically, what peptides are, and I'll give the very simple definition. But basically, it's a configuration or a string of amino acids, and depending on what the configuration of the amino acids are, will determine or will elicit a certain response. And so BPC 157 is really good for healing the gut. So the gut wall, if you have any kind of gut issues, systemically, it's really good for the gut. But you can also get injections for localized treatments. And that would be good for people with knee pain or hip pain or, ankle pain, Achilles pain. And so I took the injection for the spot where I got my hernia repair. I put it there and in my stomach. And I mean, again, within a couple of weeks, I felt I know I'm going to still take it easy, but I was good. I was moving around. I was going and doing training with people, and they're like, but are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And I went and did my 2-week checkup, and the doc was like, whoa. He was like, dude, that's impressive. So So for those that are curious, stay tuned because I'm going to be talking about not ketones, but peptides for depression, peptides for hair growth, peptides for libido, peptides for, you know, one of the common ones everyone is talking about right now is semaglutide. That's a peptide, you know. So if you want to do a deep dive with me on peptides, just stay tuned. I don't want to jump the gun too much right now, but just, you know, I gave you a little teaser with the BPC 157 and the TB 500. I'm taking those together, or I will be taking those together very soon. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's that.
Cool. And I know you got to have a little fun to wrap things up for a little fun cultural moment. You got to go to El Clasico. I'm a little jelly there.
Oh my goodness. El Clasico in for those who don't know what El Clasico is, that is Real Madrid versus Barcelona. That was my very first football or soccer game, and I happened to be at El Clasico, right behind. I was right behind the players.
Yeah,
and I mean, basically like midfield. It was incredible, man. It was incredible.
Who won that game?
What a game.
I didn't see that one actually.
Barcelona won that one.
Nice.
So to be in Barcelona when they won against Real Madrid, wow, man,
such a great
wow.
city. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So
fun. Beautiful,
great
man.
culture. Yeah. All right. Well, for those that listened up to this point, I wanted this to be a very short one, and of course, I can't make things too short. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Definitely check out the links that we put in the show notes because it's one of the best ways to support the show. If you want us to keep coming out with this awesome content, definitely click the links. You know, ask me if you have any questions. Let me know your feedback if you try some of these products. Let me know if you think it's bullshit or not. I'm happy to discuss. But yeah, until next time, this is Josh signing out with Simply Walk the Talk. Peace.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.